It's been about 3 weeks or so, but we're finally back with another edition of the Pittsburgh Sporting News video cast. Good morning, Pittsburgh. Big game today in the AFC North between the Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we've been waiting for our friend Daniel Dudley to join the call, and sure enough, he comes on right as we go live and automatically disappears and is reappearing once again. So I can already tell this is going to be a great show since my computer feels like it's about to take off to space. But anyway, joining me for sure is John Penline because he doesn't pull the garburkery as we like to call it as he joins and leaves again. So John, how are you doing so far?
I'm great. Just sitting here with all my Mac products that don't shut down in the middle of trying to do something.
Mine's a Mac product too, for what it's worth, and it just got back from the Apple Store, so not too pleased right now. But yeah, we're gonna have a good show. We have nothing scripted, nothing ready. We're just gonna talk. Hoping to get DD on here because we love when he's on here because we just talk about the most random things in the entire world. But let's start as always with our player of the week. And of course, this one's kind of a layup. It's Big Ben Roethlisberger for his performance last week against the Colts, his record-setting performance, second quarterback to ever throw for 500 yards. And as I'm trying to pull up the stats, my computer's giving me the spinning wheel that the Macs so often do. So yeah, I think it's 522 yards, 6 touchdowns, something like that, just short of the all-time record. Back on my Google Hangouts page right now, and all I see is a white screen. So I don't know who's there, but DD, if you're there, welcome.
I'm here. I see myself. You don't see me?
I see nothing but a white screen right now, fellas.
John?
Hi, I see you. I see everybody.
Sweet.
Well,
As long as John sees me, that's all that matters.
that's all that matters if he can. I'm just going to go with it, guys, and hopefully this corrects itself. DD, first time we've had you on since you moved out west to Los Angeles. How's the gig at Radio Disney going, and how are you enjoying life at 8 a.m. right now instead of 11 a.m.?
It's good, man. Hosting the mornings on the weekends and stuff, and producing during the week, and it's fun, but it's early. It's really, really early. Why are you doing this at 8 o'clock? Like, why are you smiling at 8 in the morning? Like, this is terrible.
We are Pittsburgh Sporting News, so the majority of our audience lives in Pittsburgh, and it's 11 a.m. right there. But I actually woke up at 5 a.m. today just because I couldn't sleep. So, yeah, that's what we like to call commitment to excellence. The Raiders should take note of us here because we're actually living up to it. But, guys, I actually have my screen back. I can see everybody. So, yes, this show looks like it might go on. So let's just get right into it with some Steelers talk. John, you've been the last few Steelers games for us. You've covered the Texans, the Colts. Now you're going tonight, I believe, for us to go cover Sunday Night Football. Can the Steelers keep it up and continue their winning ways against the Ravens, who I feel are a much, much better team? I said you, John. John?
Well, yeah. Hello.
Yes, so you're going to answer the question?
All right.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, his feed is cutting out.
Well, I told you, my computer feels like it's about to go off the things right now. So, John, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, the Steelers, can they win tonight?
Yeah, of course they can win tonight. They just have to put up, 35 points again. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because usually these games end up like 13-6, but that's kind of, back in the day when the defenses were really, really good and the offenses did just enough to try to win. I think it's kind of the opposite right now. I think the offenses are actually pretty good on both sides, and the defenses are kind of poor, although I would say Baltimore has the edge on defense for sure. But, yeah, I mean, they definitely can win. I think if you believe in momentum, I think they've kind of carried that over the last 2 weeks, and typically these teams split every single season, and, I mean, this is a big spot either way. I mean, they can't really afford to lose this game. Although I could definitely see them winning tonight and then losing like against the Titans on the road or the Jets on the road.
And DD, what's your thoughts? The Ravens kind of embarrassed the Steelers first time out there this year. Do you think the Steelers bounce back, and who's kind of the key to victory for them?
They're going to lose this week just because of what they did last week. I mean, I feel like that's the way this team's gone for the last, 3 years now? You know, they look like they're world beaters. This happens at the middle of the season almost every single year of these 8-8 seasons. It's like something's happened where you're looking past everyone. You're like, all right, this is where the Steelers are going to make their push. They're going to the playoffs. You look at the rest of their schedule. You're like, they can do this. And then, they fall flat on their face. And I feel like that's what you're looking for tonight. Doesn't mean the Steelers aren't going to make the playoffs or whatever, because who knows? The AFC's terrible. I don't really think the AFC North is all that good either. But after what they did last week, there's going to be a letdown, because I think the Steelers are somewhere, their offense is somewhere in between that. Like either, somewhere between terrible and great, definitely not great, definitely not terrible. We've seen both of them this year, and I think you're just going to go back to seeing them be mediocre again, because that's really what this team is. They're just mediocre. That's what we're going to see tonight.
Well, the only thing is that they tend to play up to the competition or down to it. I think if the next 2 weeks they play the Titans and the Jets, I think if they were playing one of those teams before playing Baltimore, I would say they're definitely going to lose that game, because they typically just have a letdown like that. But I think it's the way that they scheduled the games. I actually think it helps the Steelers, because they can stay focused week to week. And I know maybe people won't put a lot of credence into that, but if there's any team that has showed that they weren't ready to play against a bad team, or they looked past a certain team on certain weeks, it's definitely been the Steelers over the last 6 or 7 years. And I'm not saying the Steelers are going to win, and I definitely don't think that the 6 touchdowns they put up last week are what we should expect at all. But I think they're a very good offense. I think that their offensive line isn't that bad. I think they've got one of the better running backs in the league. They've got arguably the best wide receiver in the league right now, Antonio Brown. And I think Martavis Bryant has kind of added a dimension because of his size and of course his speed. So I think the offense is legitimate. I don't think it's average. I definitely think it's possibly top 5, depending on who else we're comparing them to. I think that other offenses have a lot of flaws, and there's certainly a couple that are definitely better than the Steelers, but I don't think they're that much better.
And one of the best things going for the Steelers tonight is that cornerback Jimmy Smith, the Ravens' lockdown corner, is out. So it's going to be interesting to see if they try to make Ladarius Webb shadow Antonio Brown, or what they do there. But to me, the real reason Steelers have been playing great lately, the past 2 games, is because of the emergence of Martavis Bryant. Like you said, he was inactive the first few games of the year, and then next thing you know, he's out there scoring deep touchdown after deep touchdown. That's kind of what Ben's always need, is that second option there, because Marcus Wheaton just isn't that guy. Emmanuel Sanders, I think he got a bad rap. I think he was decent. But do you think Bryant could actually be that legit number 2 wide receiver that the Steelers desperately need going forward, DD?
Yes. There's no doubt he can be. You could see that in training camp. Like, did the guy know where he was going? No, he had no idea where he's going. But here's the thing that annoys me about the whole Martavis Bryant thing, is that all he's done is run stop routes, fades, and streaks. That's all you've seen him do over the last couple weeks when he's had, 3 touchdowns or whatever? That's all he's done. So, I get sick of coaches and everyone saying, oh, he's got to learn the playbook, he's got to know this. No, he's played football his whole life, and he was a pick in the NFL for a reason. He's fast, and he can catch, and he can add that element to this team that they're missing. Because Lance Moore, he can be that Hines Ward type that just you can rely on at third down. You've got Antonio Brown, who's your just do everything absolute freak, and Martavis Bryant can be that number 2. Marcus Wheaton, I was never, ever, ever sold on. He may end up being a good receiver, but I've just never been sold on him being anything more than Emmanuel Sanders. And that, like you said, Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is really good, and I've always liked Emmanuel Sanders for what he could do, but I've never thought Marcus Wheaton was going to be more than that.
And Penline, you've got to see him up close and personal the past 2 weeks. What can you tell us about Bryant?
On the field, or
On the field, because we all know how he is off the field.
Yeah, no, I agree with Didi. In fact, I think we kind of went back and forth a little bit on Twitter about that, and that, especially now, because let's face it, the NFL and really about fundamentals. It's just about pure athleticism. It's about, if this guy's faster than the guy he's going up against, he's going to win that matchup most times. So the idea that you need him to be able to run all these complex, routes and create this, just have this giant tree of routes that he's going to be able to, he's going to have to do before he gets on the field is ridiculous. And honestly, I think they gave Bryant a helmet 2 weeks ago because they knew that he was one of the more talented wide receivers on their team, probably the most talented as far as pure athleticism goes, and they needed somebody to come in here and actually make an impact for Ben, more than just Antonio Brown. I think Wheaton can be a solid number 3 guy, but, he's not, I agree again with Didi, he's not going to be anything else but that. And he's relatively the same size as Brown, so he's not a big threat. Bryant, you could almost call Bryant like a poor man's Randy Moss, where he's not quite as freakish as Randy Moss was, but he's still a guy who, despite the fact that he's 6'4", can blow past a corner. The long catch that he had, it wasn't a touchdown, but the 50-yard catch he had last week against the Colts, as soon as Ben let the ball go, Bryant and the corner were neck and neck, and then about halfway through the ball getting there, Bryant had just pulled away completely and totally torched the guy. And it's that type of threat that not only gives Ben another weapon, but it allows the offense to go down the field instead of throwing so many of the screen passes that people hate. And eventually it backs the defense up, and they're able to run the ball well, also. So he's a freak athlete. He just is. And I think, the more that they get him involved in the game, the better he's going to get at route running. And I also think, he'll be able to learn on the fly, and it'll make him a better player in the long run.
Now, let's take a look at the defense. Are they going to be able to shut down the ancient Steve Smith, Torrey Smith, and then the combo of Justin Forsett and Lorenzo Taliaferro tonight, DD? Or are those names that you're just like, this is pathetic, I don't even want to talk about them?
Are you kidding? Steve Smith is great. To me, the thing about Steve Smith is one of those guys that will always be underrated because of where he played. I think Steve Smith is like an all-time great. If I'm looking at receivers of this 2000s, Steve Smith's one of those guys that are up there in your top 10. He has to be. And he has to be. The guy competes, and what he's doing right now is just showing what he can do with a good quarterback. I like Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco can throw the deep ball. Steve Smith can go get it. And I don't think they're going to be able to stop him, but I don't know if that completely means that the Steelers D is going to, the Ravens are going to put up a bunch of points, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop Steve Smith. I don't think they can stop any receiver in the league, to be honest. I think the Steelers DBs are terrible. I thought that when I left. I still see that now every week. People are forgetting, as much fun as the Colts game was, the Colts put up a lot of points and a lot of offense on that team. It was just that, the pick six and the pick six and the safety were the reason the Steelers won that game. That's the difference in the game right there. Is the pick six and the safety. Take that away, you cannot take that away. You take it away, that game could have gone either way. But that's just how they won it. But the defense did not look good. The offense looked great. The defense looked bad. The Ravens could do that same thing.
In their first meeting, John, Justin Forsett kind of had his breakout game in his 7th year in the NFL against the Steelers, and fantasy players were running to the waiver wire to hurry up and get him. Do you think the Steelers are going to be able to slow down Forsett and Taliaferro tonight?
I don't know. They're not great running backs, but they definitely work within the offense that they're playing in, and I think that was a big difference between the Colts and what the Ravens are going to put up tonight. The Colts have Ahmad Bradshaw, who hasn't been bad either this year, but Trent Richardson, he's a bust. He's a terrible pick. He's a terrible trade. Really, it was all on Andrew Luck and on his arm. Whereas with the Ravens, they're a little bit more balanced. So the Steelers can't just assume that they're going to throw on almost every single down like you can pretty much with the Colts. I mean, it's tough. I mean, we saw Ray Rice torch the Steelers a couple of years ago, and then on the second matchup, it was a little bit of a different story. So, I have no faith in the defense at all. And I agree. I mean, Edie said, the AFC North isn't, that strong, and the AFC isn't that strong. I don't think the NFL is that strong. I think it's a pretty watered down league. I think it's pretty mediocre. I don't think there are any teams that are, that play a strong defense and have a pretty good offense. I just, you can probably look at the Broncos, but they definitely have their holes as well. And, to me, everything's up for grabs. I mean, the Ravens' defense hasn't been great. Their offense hasn't been great either. I mean, they beat up on teams like Atlanta and Tampa Bay, which the Steelers couldn't do. But, regardless, I mean, they beat up on really bad teams. They put up a lot of points on bad teams. And when they had to play Cincinnati on the road, they lost. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting on how this whole thing works. I have no faith in the defense, at all. Nobody. No one on that team.
I'm taking the Steelers. I'm taking the Ravens. DD's taking the Ravens. Penline, are you going to sweep it, or are you going with the Steelers for 3 in a row?
No, I still think that the Steelers will find a way to win this game. Again, they usually split this series. And then ask me next week afterward. I'll probably take the Titans or the Jets, whoever they play next, because they'll definitely have a letdown, and the bridges here will be on fire. So,
if I'm the Ravens, I come out and throw 30 straight times tonight. That's what I do. Because the Colts, you knew they were going to throw. They threw 25 straight passes or something like that. And Andrew Luck's throwing it wherever he wants to, and not just underneath routes when the Steelers are just kind of sitting back. No, they're throwing over top of Cortez Allen and throwing over top of the defense, and they knew the passes were coming. If I'm the Ravens, I just come out, do nothing but throw. I'll run later. I'm throwing, and that's just what's happening. 25 straight pass plays for me, and I'm just torching the Steelers defense. Troy is about 5 steps slower than he needs to be. The DBs on this team are awful, man. They're bad. They're bad. Mike Mitchell, I like him though. I hear people at home don't like him that much, but I mean, at least he runs around and looks like he's doing something.
DD is going to be the next offensive coordinator of some team next year. Watch out, people. Start the campaign, DD for OC.
Fired after 2 weeks.
Now, DD, we all know you're kind of like me in the aspect that when you watch sports, you want to be entertained. That's mainly what you want to do. Is this a game that you look at and say, this is a must-watch game? I'm going to be entertained, or doesn't it have that same feel to it as it did maybe 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, no, it doesn't have the same feel it had 3 or 4 years ago, but that's just kind of to what John was saying about the NFL is a very mediocre league right now. 3 or 4 years ago, both of these teams were, playing at their best. They had a bunch of Hall of Famers playing at the top at the top of their game. Now you look at it and you're like, yeah, you look at the defense. Really, it's just the defense. You look at it and you're like, yeah, man, some of these guys are around, but they are really either shouldn't be playing or they're kind of on their last leg. You know what I mean? You look at guys like Suggs and Polamalu, and Ray Lewis isn't playing. You look at guys like James Harrison, who is playing for whatever reason. He's, it's like Kiesel used to be at the top. This was when Ryan Clark was playing really well. You look at the defenses for these Ed Reed 3 or 4 years ago. These were great defenses and great players that you're going to see in Canton. Now, you've got a bunch of, guys who are kind of living on people saying the Ravens defense is good just because they were good 3 or 4 years ago, but really they're not. But is it must see? I mean, yeah, it's for the the AFC North is kind of riding on it. It's but it's must see. It's Steelers Ravens. It's gonna be fun. It'll be dramatic. It will probably end up going down to a last-second field goal. So there's that. It'll be must see until the last minute or whatever, and then you're gonna get a last-second field goal by one of the teams.
We all know how you feel about field goals there.
And I hate them even more, but I don't want to talk about West Virginia.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that yesterday. TCU beating West Virginia. What a game there was. Talking about college football, you still keeping tabs on the Pittsburgh or the Pennsylvania teams Penn State losing 4 in a row. Pitt got the script back, but they don't have the winning script there. I think they lost 2 or 3 in a row now. So you still keeping tabs on the pathetic teams back home?
Oh yeah, I love watching sports out here because like everything's done so quick. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, Pitt's on. West Virginia's on at 12, and then I'm able to finish. Then the rest of my day is free. So I probably watch more football than I did at home almost. Like unless I were, it's easier to watch things. I mean, you wake up, have coffee, watch Pitt lose, and West Virginia ticks you off while you're having lunch or whatever. So that's easier. But yeah, I've been watching Pitt, and Pitt is Pitt. Like nothing's changed. Nothing's changed at all, and I'm not surprised by anything either. Like Chad Wojcik is Chad Wojcik. He is Tino Sunseri. That's what he is. Like he's probably a faster Tino Sunseri, so he can run a little bit. But that's what he is. And maybe that gets Pitt 8 wins next year, or maybe that gets them to finish the season strong. I don't know, but he's not some great quarterback. Like he's not, and he's showing that this year because the team should be better than what it is. And yeah, the defense is bad, but on offense, sometimes the team can't score, and it's because of him. And James Conner and Tyler Boyd can only do so much when you have Chad Wojcik at quarterback.
And John, one of the big topics been thrown around for years now, and that's the whole. We're going to touch on it very quickly because it kind of annoys me. Is the whole Pitt needs this on-field campus, the stadium on campus. Do you think that's ever going to happen in Oakland? Is there room for it to happen? I mean, depending on who you talk to, Rob Rossi from the Trib says needs to happen. Our friend Chris Gates, this is the topic that puts him over the edge, and he turns so red. It's so funny just watching him going on a rant about it. It's hilarious. Then you have James Santelli, who we all know. He broke down a 3-part of how it's possible, how it could happen. Do you think it could happen, John, and do you think it would solve any issues with the lousy attendance that Pitt has?
No.
That was simple. Okay, next topic. No,
because look, first of all, we're still paying taxes on the other 2 stadiums that were built here with Heinz Field and PNC Park, and I mean,
John's a homeowner.
What's that?
You can tell John is a homeowner.
Yes.
But on top of that, I understand that Pittsburgh needs its sports teams because even though Pittsburgh now has been great for banking, it's been great for medical research, and it has all these great things that brought itself out of the depression it was in the 80s. People still know Pittsburgh because of their sports. So I understand that they need the sports teams here. But as far as building another stadium and spending more money just so that we can move a half-empty stadium closer to the campus, that makes no sense to me. And people say, well, if it's closer to the campus, then more students will go. I don't believe that. Because in the 70s, in the late 70s, when the team was doing well, like winning national titles, they couldn't sell out Pitt Stadium. They couldn't give tickets away. And that was a 50,000-seat stadium. So unless you want to play on a 35 or 40,000 capacity stadium, which really isn't a college stadium at all, then what would be the point? I mean, if you want people to show up, you have to win, but even that's not going to do it here because it's not a college town. It would be one thing. I mean, when you look at actual college towns, they are the only game in town in the area. I mean, you look at, Alabama Alabama plays in Tuscaloosa. West Virginia, WVU, they play in Morgantown. Penn State is in, Beaver Falls or whatever it's called, Happy Valley. So to me, if you want Pitt fans to show up, if you want a strong Pitt connection with high capacity crowds, move them to Erie. That's your best bet. Moving them on campus is not going to solve the problem.
Could you imagine that weekly commute that they'd have to bus people from University of Pitt to Erie every single Saturday? It's almost as dumb as the NFL wanting to put a team full time in London. But yeah, stranger things have happened. And looking at let's switch gears here a little bit. Again,
the stadium thing. Hold on.
Oh, go ahead. Didi, you got something to say? Just say it.
The stadium thing. My only thing about the stadium, right? One, has anyone who's saying the stadium, and I like Rob Rossi's great. I like Rob Rossi, but that was a really, really, really dumb column that he wrote. Because has he been to Oakland?
The other one.
Well, has he been to Oakland? Like, you guys have been in Oakland. Where's it going? And have you ever been to Oakland whenever Pitt has a big basketball game? Trying to get into Oakland? Like, 376 is backed up off of the Oakland exit when Pitt plays Syracuse or Duke or somebody big on a Monday night or a Thursday night or a Saturday afternoon. You can't get in Oakland. And and the Pete holds, what, 13,000 people? So
Yep.
if you're trying to get into Pitt, you're trying to get into New Pitt Stadium, whatever they would call it, where 50,000 people are trying to get into Oakland. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well,
Like they should have never taken the stadium down, but they did, so they're stuck with Heinz Field. There's nowhere to put a new stadium.
well, and the bigger problem really, and it's, I mean, they could still fix it, but you'd really have to just go back and pretty much do what you did over again. The big problem was they took the T out of Oakland. And when they did that, they made it harder to go out there. I mean, if they would have kept the T the way it was, where it was going all over Pittsburgh, you wouldn't have a lot of the transportation issues that you have. Not just with Oakland and Pitt students and trying to go to games, but just in general. I mean, people trying to get on the Parkway East, like I'll take a picture at 5 o'clock tomorrow night when people are leaving rush hour for to get out to Monroeville, because I can see it from my office. It's just a stream of red lights. They would be so much better off if they would have kept the T there, and then there would be no excuse for Pitt fans because they could take the T from Oakland all the way up to Heinz Field and go all the way back. They wouldn't have to worry about driving. They wouldn't have to worry about taking a bus where half the people there talk to each other or talk to themselves. To me, that would be like my number one thing. It would be to bring the T back to Oakland, because I feel like it could do nothing but help.
Yeah, they're still not going. They can't win.
Nah, it won't happen. It's interesting, the proposal that James Santelli gave in his, I skimmed it over. I can't say I read it very, very in depth, but he did make some good points about what he wanted to do. So I suggest checking that out if you want to keep beating the dead horse with this topic, because it's not going to go away, and it's still frustrating. And again, I get amusement out of watching people like Chris on Twitter get so fired up about it, just because it's the most entertaining thing in the world. Feel so bad for the guy, the biggest Pitt fan in the world. Every year he's like, this is their year, they're going to win it, they're going to do it. I see last year opening up against Jameis Winston, I see no reason that Pitt won't go out there and beat Florida State. I tip my cap to him. I mean, he's been through a lot as a Pitt fan, but he continues to stay. So, Chris, keep trucking along there, buddy.
You gotta have him. You gotta have him on here.
I'll bring him on sometime, and we can just let him vent. Just get his emotions out there. It might help him out a little. I get kind of nervous for him sometimes. He's going to have a serious breakdown.
Yeah, and then he and I can have a discussion about how much worse it could actually be for him as a fan of a college football team.
Virginia? Yeah, Virginia's kind of irrelevant. I mean, when Oregon put 55.
To hire a 1AA coach. And now they need to make the full transition and move the team down to 1AA so they can have a ride with James Madison in Richmond.
Yeah, it's Wahoo or whatever you guys say?
Yeah. 11 days, baby. 11 days until college football or basketball.
Is that when the regular season starts?
Yep.
I cannot wait to stay up all night and just watch those games that they play 24 hours on ESPN or whatever it is. But so let's go into some hockey talk, because I guess the Penguins are doing some good things. There's no hockey in Oregon, so you literally cannot. I haven't seen 1 second of any hockey game this year, and it's really kind of pissing me off. But the Penguins back-to-back shutouts. I don't know if you want to count last night's game against essentially the Erie Otters with Buffalo Sabres, but Marc-Andre Fleury looking good in net, the power play looking ridiculous. John, have you been following the Pens pretty closely? And you have to be impressed by what you've seen so far under the new coach, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're winning the games. You know, I mean, it's, what can you say? I mean, the biggest difference, I think, is just their power play is just deadly. I mean, they've always had a pretty good power play, but this year it's like, if you get in the box against the Penguins, you're almost guaranteed to give up a goal at least 1 or 2 times a night. And Yeah, I mean, Fleury's played extremely well. We'll have to see how he does when I'm not playing against him in fantasy hockey. But this week he's been great, and he's, 3 shutouts, and I don't know. It's October. Well, now it's November, but regardless, I mean, it's still really early on in the season, and you're just kind of watching and seeing, like what has, and right now it looks a lot of the same that what we saw last year. Maybe it's a different system, but the results are relatively the same. I think I love Steve Downey. I love the fact that, if anybody goes after, one of the stars, he's usually trying to step in there, but I feel like they could still use one more guy to be physical on defense at least, and then they need another physical guy that can play in the bottom six, and maybe another guy that can play on the top six alongside Evgeny Malkin. So they acknowledge that the front office acknowledged that they needed to, this roster wasn't complete when they broke camp and when they were ready for the season. So I think they'll make some moves later on, but so far so good.
Do they look different? That's all I want to know. They look different than what they did Did they ever look in October and November? Because when I was watching them play the Kings, I'm sitting there watching this team, and they're beating the Kings, and the Kings are good, and the Kings are going to be in the race when it comes to April, May, June, and all of that. And I'm watching them, and I'm like, they just look the same. Like, they're dominant. Yeah, they'll put up 100-something points in the season, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. They just don't look any different to me.
Well,
I haven't watched them as much. I know I haven't watched them as much as you have. I've probably watched maybe 2 or 3 games since being out here since the season started, but they just look like the same team.
Well, I mean, some of the minor differences, I guess some major differences as well. I mean, you don't see a lot of the dump and chase anymore, which is good. I mean, I can understand dump and chase with Craig Adams, but when you've got Evgeny Malkin or Sidney Crosby, you don't see that, and you don't really need to see that. But I think one of the bigger things, and I think Jesse Marshall wrote about this, when the Devils went up 1-0 and they kind of fell into their trap, because they like to just clog up the neutral zone and try to trap the Penguins. In the past, whenever the Penguins were down and a team was trapping against them, it was so aggravating to watch because they just could not figure out how to beat that system. And the Penguins actually took it to the Devils. I think it was like 8-3 was the end of the score. But they seem to find a way to get around that, and I think that's something that you can't really overlook, even though it is really early on. Is teams kind of adjusted or tried to adjust to the Penguins, and the Penguins were able to actually make an adjustment right back. And if there's one thing that's killed this team ever since Crosby and Malkin have been around, it's been a team that has tried to trap them, and the fact that they were able to break that really shows an improvement, and hopefully is a sign of more things to come. But you're right. Like I said, it's there are some differences, but right now it's the same results. And with a team that's talented and playing in a league where more than half the teams in the league make the playoffs, it's hard to get into. It's more of a league thing to me, but it's really tough to get into when you know that your team is going to be in the playoffs, and really that's all you care about. How are they going to do in the playoffs? How are they going to do when teams aren't calling as many penalties and when it's a little bit more of a bruising game? So we'll just have to see. I'm more excited to see if they make any moves or not than who they're playing next and what they're going to do against them.
And Didi, now that you're in LA, I want to ask you a few things about how the fans there are reacting to some things. I know you watched the Penguins beat the Kings at Buffalo Wild Wings, I believe you said it was.
Yeah.
And you said it was pretty funny just watching all the pissed off Kings fans. So what was kind of their reaction? Was it kind of like a meltdown, like I can't believe we lost this game, we're the reigning Stanley Cup champs, blah 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 blah?
No, it wasn't a meltdown. There was no meltdown. Like, everyone just kind of just moved on. It wasn't like when people. It's not like when the Penguins lose here. When the Penguins lose in Pittsburgh, man, it doesn't matter what it is. The Penguins could come off winning a Stanley Cup, and they could lose, and they could lose to a good team, and everyone's going crazy, second guessing everything, yelling at the coach, and all of that. It was none of that. But I think that does come to just kind of the difference of what we've seen in Pittsburgh, where this team in 2009 had all these high hopes, and now you've seen Chicago win cups, you've seen Boston win cups, you've seen the Kings win cups, you've seen all this, happen, and now everyone's kind of frustrated in Pittsburgh and all of that because the teams are disappointing. I just think with Kings fans, they're just hyped. They've won a couple cups here in recent memory, and they've got a good team on their hands, so they're happy. I think that's how I've seen people react when people talk about the Kings.
Now they're happy and they have a good team, but one team in Staples Center that is not good is the Los Angeles Lakers, 0-4. So while I'm happy about it. You guys know I hate the Lakers. John hates basketball, so it doesn't even matter about him. He hates the NBA. But I'm not the biggest Kobe Bryant fan. Respect the hell out of him. But 0-4, tough schedule to start off with. What's the reaction in Los Angeles to the slow start by the Lakers?
Oh, the reaction to the Lakers is just people are happy that Kobe looks good because Kobe looks really good right now.
Very good.
That's pretty much it. In that, the Lakers are terrible. I mean, I don't think anybody expects them to be good. The only reaction is just that Kobe looks good, and almost like they're waiting for Kobe to go this year or something. I've heard more talk about first-round draft picks than I've heard anyone talk about what the Lakers could do. And I thought it would be like people talking about the Clippers a lot, but still, I guess the Clippers are just kind of the Clippers, even though they're the much superior team. It's just, I guess they're just the Clippers. But I've heard more talk about the draft with the Lakers than I've heard anyone talk about what the team could be. So, I think everyone's just kind of waiting. They know this year's bad, and they're just waiting to move on. It's what it seems like anyways.
I mean, you kind of have to with the injury to Steve Nash and, of course, Julius Randle. I felt very, very bad for their first-round pick going down with that broken leg. So I guess they kind of have to look forward to the draft. Things almost got interesting in Los Angeles this week when the Tampa Bay Rays manager, Joe Maddon, stepped down. There was talks, okay, maybe Don Mattingly's really screwed here because, his idiotic managing. I don't like to criticize managers a lot, but, benching Yasiel Puig in the playoffs, come on now. So there was talks maybe he would be gone, Joe Maddon would come in. But, however, he goes to Chicago and absolutely love what the Cubs are doing. Love Theo Epstein, that youth that they have there. And, John, Pirates fans have to be nervous about the Cubs coming up in the next 2 or 3 years, don't they?
I guess. There's nothing they can do about it. The Pirates have to just do their best to put out another winning team this year. And I've said this before. The prospects don't necessarily guarantee success, and you know that. So, with the trade deadline, you wanted to trade everybody away.
Get them out of there. Bring them in. Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. They could go out. They can get Russell Martin. There's been a lot of talk about the Cubs wanting Russell Martin. Everybody, including me, seems to think that John Lester is going to end up there. Possibly James Shields, but they still have to rely on a lot of young players. And don't get me wrong, they have a lot of talent. Chris Bryant looks like he's going to be really special at third. But like Javier Baez, he's got a lot of power, but he's also had more multi-strikeout games already than Barry Bonds had in his entire career, or 4 strikeout games, I think it was. That's something you have to look at. Jorge Soler, who came up last year, he also has a problem with a lot of strikeouts. It seems like a team that's really going to be able to mash the ball in the future, but, they might also be prone to giving up a lot of outs. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Joe Maddon, he did the best that he could with a Rays team that was average. When they made the World Series, they were much like the Royals. They weren't the best team in the playoffs, but they found a way to make it into the World Series. They got hot at the right time. So, I think he's going to be a solid manager for them, but I don't know how much of an impact that's really going to make. I think a lot of people blow it out of proportion when it comes to what managers get hired where. I think Hurdle has definitely made an impact on this team, but as far as managerial, decisions, I don't think it's been that big of a deal, and I don't think it will be for Joe Maddon either.
I think managers are the most overrated. Managers in baseball are the most overrated coach in sports, if you want to look at it that way. I don't think they impact the game as much as other sports do. Now, you talk about Russell Martin going to Chicago. I think that's where he's going to end up. But is there a chance that Pittsburgh will retain him, DD? Do you think they're willing to shell out the money that it's going to take maybe put that fourth or fifth year on that contract for a guy who's 30 years old?
It's simple with Russell Martin. Does he want to stay in Pittsburgh or does he want to cash out? And if I'm him, I'm cashing out, and I'm not Pittsburgh. It's just that simple with Russell Martin. Like, I know there's going to be other teams in this thing, but when you look at the Cubs and the Pirates, the money the Cubs can spend is the money that Pirates fans want to spend. They want to have that money where they can just say, oh yeah, we can just throw it away and we can give him a 4-year contract, and he can only have to play in 2 of them. The Cubs can do that because they have that kind of money. The Pirates don't. And I think it would be dumb for the Pirates to do it anyways. But Russell Martin's gone. There's no way. He's going, if not the Cubs, he's going somewhere because he's going to be able to get a bunch of money that another team with a bigger payroll can shell out and not care. Because if the Cubs, can say, yeah, we got 2 good years out of Russell Martin and he got us in, he had a big deal with putting us into the playoffs or something, they got their money back. They're good.
Now, has there been talk out there about possibly Martin reuniting with the Dodgers, going back out there? Or is that not really been brought up?
I haven't heard anything about Russell Martin coming to the Dodgers, but the thing is, the Dodgers are not out of the conversation when it comes to anyone. That's the one thing you know about the Dodgers. Everyone knows that. Like, the Dodgers can come in last minute and say, hey, here's $1 billion. Take it. Because that's just what the Dodgers can do.
Yeah, but the idea is the Dodgers, at least from what I've heard, the Dodgers don't want to spend all that money. I mean, they definitely have, and they have the means to do so, but that doesn't mean that they actually want to go out and they just want to spend hundreds and hundreds more of millions of dollars. I think that Andrew Friedman was brought in not only because he was awesome with the Rays, but also because they wanted somebody who can maybe manage the team a little bit better instead of just spending them out of control, because they owe so much money to guys like Andre Ethier and Matt Kemp. I mean, they're going to try to they're going to try to lose some of that salary by maybe trading some of those guys, but I don't think they're going to incur another cost with Russell Martin when they're still trying to give up some things that they've already spent money on. I mean, they've got they've got a couple young guys that they'd like to use. I mean, Jock Peterson is one of them, but there's no room for him on this roster, and I don't think they're going to get rid of Puig anytime soon. I don't think I believe that they are going to try to get Peterson up here so he can play in the outfield every day because he is that talented. And I think at this point they're going to try to cut some costs. I mean, they might go out and they might sign a big free agent, but they're not going to do so without trading some guys away that they could possibly alleviate themselves from all that money.
All right, and we have about 10 minutes later left in the show. We're going to go over some NFL picks Week 9 here. Just going to go through some games. DD, start with you, then Penline, then me. Just give your quick prediction. I'll stay in the AFC North. Buccaneers versus the Browns, and it sucks that's the game people in Pittsburgh have to watch today.
Oh my God! I got Browns Raiders last week, so that was on my main TV. I had to go somewhere else to watch Colts Steelers. But anyways, I'm going with the Buccaneers because you just can't trust Cleveland. Cavs lost to the Knicks. You can't trust them. Sorry.
I mean, I guess I'll go with the Bucs too, only because, I mean, they got killed at home by the Ravens and then they beat the Steelers, so they're obviously a better road team. So I'll have to take the Bucs over the Browns.
And I'll go with the Bucs over the Browns because of Mike Glennon. Any team that Mike Glennon's on is a winner to me. So let's go to the next 1 o'clock game, and that'll be the surprising Cowboys, who, by the way, they're starting Brandon Weeden today, guys. Tony Romo, two fraction is back, going to miss this week. So Brandon Weeden-led Cowboys hosting the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to go reverse order this time just because I decided it. I'm going to go with Arizona easily. So, not even a contest. They're going to continue their march toward the NFC West crown. John?
Yeah, I'll pick Arizona, but I'll say it's a close one because I think Arizona's overrated.
Cowboys. I watched Colt McCoy win a game. Brandon Weeden might as well win one too.
Anything is possible. Kevin Garnett voice right there. You never know. let's stay in the AFC North again with the Jaguars at the Bengals. Don't know why I'm really asking this. I'm assuming we're all going to take the Bengals to win. But, Didi, I'll start with you. A.J. Green is back.
Yeah, Bengals win by like 40. They lost because of the way that last week's game went, and I think that they kind of got their wake up call. I think they got touched by an angel on that call last week against the Ravens. They really did, and I think that might have been their wake up call. I think Cincinnati, I think they're going to destroy Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think they'll beat Jacksonville. I still think they're going to finish third in the division, though, because the Bengals just can't seize the moment. And later on this season, when there's a lot on the line, I think Andy Dalton's going to blow it for them. So for now, though, I'll pick the Cincinnati to beat that high school football team.
Green is back, expected to play 30 to 35 snaps. Vontaze Burfict out again, and Gio Bernard out, but Jeremy Hill's there. Doesn't matter. They're going to run all over the Jaguars. The Eagles at the Texans. Darren Sproles back, Jadeveon Clowney, and Brian Cushing out. I'm an Eagles fan. I'm going to go with the Eagles just for that reason alone. John?
Yeah, I have the Eagles too. Houston's, as great as J.J. Watt has been, Houston's secondary it's definitely worse than Pittsburgh's. I mean, it's that bad. So I see Foles throwing the ball a lot. I mean, he might give up a pick six just because he's Nick Foles, but he's still going to connect with Macklin on a 98-yard touchdown at some point, and I just don't think he's going to be able to catch up.
Yeah, Eagles. I'm kind of sick of the Texans. They need to figure something out and start winning. I'm sick of hearing. I'm sick of every preview magazine just kind of loving the Texans so much over the last however many years, and they continue to disappoint. I'm over the Texans. I don't care how good J.J. Watt is. Like, he's great, but the rest of his team's not.
And even though there's 6 teams on bye, there are some good matchups. Another one, Chargers at the Dolphins. I'm taking the Dolphins just because we've seen teams going from West Coast to East Coast struggling. The Dolphins have held Jay Cutler in check. They've held Matt Ryan in check. I believe Matt Ryan, or if it wasn't him, it was some other Tom Brady in check. Aaron Rodgers in check for the first 3 quarters till he pulled off a great comeback in the fourth. Phillip Rivers is going to have a horrible day. Miami Dolphins are going to continue to be overlooked and win this game. John?
Yeah, I'm picking Miami more so because of the travel and everything else. I don't know, and I'm not a big Phillip Rivers fan. I know he's had a great year so far, but I just don't like Phillip Rivers. I'm depending on him today, but I don't like him at all. So yeah, I'll take Miami. I think they do just enough to win this one. Probably a field goal.
Field goal just for DD there. And DD, your prediction?
Chargers and Hall of Fame quarterback Phillip Rivers win today.
Okay. A lot of hate for Phillip Rivers. I'm with there too. Couple
I
more.
love Phillip Rivers. Hey, wait, that was not sarcasm. I love Phillip Rivers. He is. No, that was not sarcasm. Phillip Rivers is my guy.
I hate Phillip Rivers.
So please Jay Cutler, but he's making me look really bad.
Love Jay Cutler. I don't know how it's possible to like one and hate the other, but I do because they're basically the same person.
Yeah,
but
they're not. Phillip Rivers is great, guys. Let's look at the numbers. He doesn't have a Super Bowl, but not everybody can win those.
Okay, last year, great numbers. What happened to 3 years before that? Horrible numbers. Horrible.
Everybody has a bad year.
Yeah, or what? 48 games in a row, bad. But yeah, anyway, we went over Ravens Steelers already. Gave our predictions there. You guys see the picture of New England? What it looks like right now? The snowstorm, complete whiteout blizzard. 45 mile per hour winds right now. By kickoff, it's supposed to get down to 20 mile per hour winds and not much precipitation. Oh my God, DD, it's horrible. I'll see if I can pull up a quick photo real quick for you. I don't know how well this will show up, but that's what it looks like right now. I know it looks like white, but it's complete whiteout right now. Just go on Twitter and search like Sao Paulo or something like that. But I'm going to take the Patriots to beat the Broncos because the Patriots are like the Saints to me. They're a different monster at home. I trust them. And, yeah, Tom Brady doesn't lose at home, and even with the snow, he's just going to play in his Uggs, and he'll be completely fine. John?
Yeah, the Patriots always beat Peyton Manning, especially at home. I mean, they didn't beat him last year, but typically they just, I don't know. I think the Patriots will find a way to win. It'll be another close one, and then everybody will be on the Patriots bandwagon talking about how Tom Brady's back and he's now still the greatest quarterback ever, and Peyton will always be in his shadow. But I just think that New England finds a way.
DD?
I just hope it's a classic game. I really do. Honestly, I'll take the Patriots just because of the snow and everything, and that's going to be a factor of the game. But I really hope that somehow by game time everything's kind of cleared up or something, and we get a decent game, because I don't know how many games Manning anymore. Like, I know we kind of say everyone takes it for granted because that's all anybody talks about is how great Brady is and how great Manning is. But man, I don't see two quarterbacks, after those two retire, being as good as those two, having that rivalry, playing every year for no reason, not in the same division or anything like that. Like, we may get two more of these, maybe three more of these or something like that. Like, I just want a classic game today, but I'll take the Patriots just because they're at home in the snow.
And finally, last game, Andrew Luck taking his Colts after getting shellacked last week by Big Ben to New York, New Jersey, wherever you want to call it, to face the Giants. I am going to go with Andrew Luck in I don't want to call it a bounce-back game for him, but bounce-back game for the Colts defense, since Vontae Davis is expected to play. John?
Of the 4 first-round quarterbacks taken in that 05 draft, or 04 draft, one of them isn't playing anymore in J.P. Lossman because Buffalo Bills. But after that, you have to think that Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger are way better than Eli Manning, just talent-wise. I have no faith in Eli Manning in any game whatsoever. I don't care if it's a Super Bowl where he just lobs the ball up Joe Flacco style and hopes that somebody comes down with it on his team. I have to pick Andrew Luck. I have to pick the Colts. I don't know if Vontae Davis is back. I don't care. I still think that Eli finds a way to lose it, and I think that Andrew Luck has a field day.
And DD.
I can't go with the Giants, man. I was a huge Eli fan. Now I'm just like, what is going on with Eli? I always liked Eli. I liked him in college and all that, but now it's just like maybe he did just fall off. Like I don't know. Like, or how good were those Giants teams? Like, maybe they were, better than he was when he was able to just, have those big moments, and win a couple Super Bowls, which you can't, that's not an easy thing to do. We're talking about Phil Rivers, like, he's got ridiculous numbers, but he's probably not going to win a Super Bowl. Maybe he does, probably doesn't, but I can't take the Giants. I can't. So it's going with the Colts.
It's like he aged 10 years over, like, in the off season.
Yeah.
Like he was like 20, like 30 years old, and then like he came out of OTAs or out of summer camp, and now he's like 40, 41. There's just nothing left, it seems like.
Yeah.
We're down to our final couple minutes here. We're going to do the final word. Either you guys have anything ready you want to go with, or you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll start.
Start us off, Mike.
All right, I'm going to talk about the World Series. It was excellent. I'm not sure what the ratings were. I'm sure it's not as big as it would be if two big market teams were in there. But just the excitement people had over seeing the team that everybody wanted to win, the Kansas City Royals, the team that no one expected could do it. The excitement people had for them, and then seeing Madison Bumgarner. John, remember beginning of the year I said one player I'd pay to watch, Madison Bumgarner? He showed why in the World Series. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest regular season, but he was just so damn impressive seeing what he did on 2 days rest. And, Tommy John candidate next year, sure. Doesn't even matter. Help the Giants again, win another World Series. And it was just excellent seeing the team, the people pulling for the Royals, but they kind of wanted to see Madison Bumgarner and see what he could do next. To me, it was must-see TV. Didi, I know you're big on that. I don't know if either of those teams drew your attention, but just seeing the storylines around it, it definitely did for me, and I think it did for baseball fans around the country as well. John?
Well, I think to go along with the World Series theme, I think if the World Series showed us anything, it was the journey to get there is based on just big plays and really a lot of luck. I mean, when you really think about it, if you looked at two teams that you didn't really think were going to make the World Series, it was probably going to be the Giants, maybe the Pirates, but also the Royals. I mean, talking about a team that really came out of nowhere, they just barely got into the wild card. You know, the Giants, you know, got in, but they were the road team in the wild card, and here we are a month later. You know, the Giants are the World Series champions. They took down Kansas City, who didn't lose a single game in the postseason up until the World Series. So a lot of it has to do with luck and just getting hot at the right time. I think people who want to see the team spend more money and increase the payroll, I applaud that you want to, you know, try to improve the team as best you can, but it also doesn't automatically, you know, mean that a team is going to make the World Series or a team is going to be a World Series champion. My only thing is I would call on Pirates fans to be patient. I know that it's very frustrating that, you know, the team doesn't spend $200 million a year, but also just keep into perspective that, you know, the current front office has built this team into back-to-back, you know, playoff teams, and all you have to do is get in, and you've got a shot to win the whole thing, and I think this World Series proved it.
Yeah, you got to be in it to win it. But that's baseball. That's really what it is, man. That's baseball.
And DD, your final word?
Final word? It's not going to be about the World Series because I was just not interested in it. But I will say this: LeBron's back. Everything is good. LeBron is in Cleveland. Everything is good. Everything is right with the world again. I am happy. You are happy. John is happy. Everyone's happy. LeBron's back in Cleveland. I'm hyped.
And I'm going to see LeBron this Tuesday in Portland as he takes on the Trailblazers with the Cavs. So it's going to be a tough matchup, but I am so excited just to see LeBron James in person again with the Cavaliers. Wait.
Yeah, you guys think you're excited about LeBron getting back, but really it's all about Joe Harris.
Wahoo, or whatever they say there for the other kind of Cavaliers that don't really matter.
He's like a white J.J. Redick.
J.J. Redick is white.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, still.
Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. I don't even know what to say after that except thank you for joining us early this morning. John, thank you for lending your extensive NBA knowledge to the show. We really appreciate it. And that's all we have for this week. We're going to try to be back next week where we can talk about how the Steelers are going to lose to the Titans or the Jets, whoever they have. So take care, enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you next time, Pittsburgh.